Most people think retiring on Social Security alone is dead, but then you look at the numbers, and a few towns quietly didn't get the memo. That's the world right now. Rents exploding, headlines screaming doom, and everyone assuming retirement means ramen or roommates. What nobody tells you is there are still places where a single check covers housing, utilities, and, surprisingly, peace of mind. So, we're going there. 5 towns most lists ignore until the math forces you to pay attention. One of them is so cheap, it feels like a typo. Wait till you see it. Like the video if this feels slightly illegal. Subscribe, because knowing where money still works is basically survival. Let's break it down. Number 5. Cairo, Illinois. Cairo sits where the Ohio and Mississippi rivers collide. On paper, that sounds historic. In real life, it sounds quiet. Too quiet. The reputation? A town time forgot. Empty blocks, closed schools, headlines that stopped updating around the same time the population did. Most people don't visit Cairo. They pass near it, fast. Let's get clinical. Population loss. Over 70% gone since 1950. That's not decline, that's evacuation without the fire. Median home price. Roughly $45,000 to $55,000. Yes, that's a real number. Median rent. Around $600 to $650 if you can even find a listing. Cost of living. About 30 to 35% below the national average. Crime, higher than average. Property crime does the heavy lifting here. And here's the irony. The town wasn't built for 2,000 people. It was built for 10 times that, which means infrastructure without competition. Yeah, Cairo didn't get cheaper, it got emptier. Big difference. This is where Social Security stops struggling and starts winning. A single check can cover housing, utilities, groceries, and still leave breathing room. Not luxury, stability, the underrated flex. The annoying part? Everyone assumes cheap means unlivable. No, sometimes it just means no one updated the narrative. Cairo isn't falling apart every day. It's just sitting there, waiting for someone who doesn't need trendy coffee or validation from Instagram. Picture it. Morning fog off the river. No traffic, no rush. You hear birds, maybe a barge horn. Your biggest decision today is coffee at home or still at home. Funny thing, this place feels rough on paper, but calmer than cities that spend fortunes trying to feel safe. Be honest, could you live somewhere quiet if it meant zero money stress? Yes or no? Because coming up next is a town that's statistically safer than Cairo, and somehow makes even less sense on the price tag. Number 4. Douglas, Arizona. Douglas sits on the far edge of Arizona, pressed up against the border like it lost a bet. Say the word border town, and people picture chaos, crime, and headlines yelling in all caps. The lifestyle expectation? Tense, transitional, temporary. Nobody says, "Let's retire there," out loud. Now let's ruin the stereotype. Median rent? Around $650 to $700. In Arizona. That's not a typo. Home prices, often under $100,000 for livable houses. Cost of living, roughly 20% below the national average. Crime. Property crime exists, but violent crime is lower than people expect for a border town. Hidden upside, proximity to Mexico-based healthcare and dental care. Dramatically cheaper, legally accessed. Turns out fear is expensive. Douglas benefits from everyone else paying the panic tax. This is where Social Security gets sneaky. You live on U.S. income, pay Arizona-level housing costs from 2003, and quietly reduce medical expenses without touching your lifestyle. That's not struggling, that's arbitrage. The weird part? Everyone warns you about Douglas like it's radioactive. Meanwhile, they're paying triple rent in safe cities while stressing over copays. The town isn't dangerous. It's just unfashionable. And unfashionable places don't jack up prices because nobody's trying to impress anyone. Picture warm desert mornings. No rush hour. You hear Spanish, English, birds, maybe a train horn. Lunch costs less than your copay used to. And the math finally shuts up. Funny thing, people feel safer paying $2,400 rent than $650 near a border they've never actually visited. And if Douglas feels like a loophole, the next town is colder, quieter, and somehow even cheaper on purpose. Number 3. Altoona, Pennsylvania. Altoona sounds like a place you pass through on the way to somewhere better. Old railroad town. Rust Belt energy. Gray winters. People assume it peaked when trains mattered and never bothered to recover. The lifestyle expectation? Modest. Predictable. Forgettable. Here's what quietly changes the story. Median home price, around $90,000 to $100,000. Still under 6 figures. Still real. Median rent, roughly $700 to $750. No bidding wars, no drama. Cost of living, about 15 to 18% below the national average. Healthcare access, above average hospital coverage for a city this size. Crime, lower than many comparable Rust Belt towns. Mostly uneventful, which is the point. This is where Social Security stops feeling fragile. Housing becomes predictable. Healthcare is nearby, and daily life runs at a speed your nervous system forgot was allowed. The annoying thing about Altoona? The weather refuses to commit. It's not dramatic snow, not cute fall. Just this long, gray stretch that feels like your TV's brightness is turned down. You'll complain for 10 seconds, then remember your rent is half of what it used to be, and suddenly the clouds feel negotiable. Picture a quiet block. Same faces, same routines. You walk to grab coffee. The barista remembers you, not because it's trendy, but because they've got time. The math works. Your shoulders drop. Funny how some cities charge more for energy, while Altoona charges less for peace. And if Altoona feels steady, the next place proves stability can still exist where you'd least expect it. Number 2. Blythe, California. California and cheap don't belong in the same sentence. Blythe lives in the awkward pause after that sentence. Desert town, I-10 blur. 90% of people know it as the place you stop for gas when something has gone wrong. Now watch this. Median rent, around $700 to $800. In California, sit with that. Home prices, often $120,000 to $160,000. Again, California. Cost of living, roughly 10 to 15% below the national average. State income tax, yes, it exists, but retirees on Social Security mostly dodge it. Crime, mostly property crime. Violent crime is not the headline here. If Zillow comments could scream, Blythe would be muted out of embarrassment. Quick stat drop. Blythe regularly hits 115 degrees in summer. That's not weather. That's a personality test. Here's the deal. Blythe is cheap because heat scares people more than rent prices excite them, and that fear keeps housing artificially low. Yes, it's hot, aggressively hot. The kind of hot where your steering wheel tries to sue you. But the heat also means no traffic, no crowds, and no competition for housing. Everyone acts like air conditioning isn't already humanity's greatest invention. You're indoors, you're fine, relax. Picture quiet mornings, flat streets, zero rush. You plan errands early, afternoons inside, evenings calm. The math works, the AC hums, your bank account stops yelling. Wild how some California cities feel dangerous and expensive, while Blythe is neither, just hot and ignored. And if Blythe feels like a climate loophole, the next town is proof that ignoring trends might be the smartest financial move left. Number 1. McDowell County, West Virginia. McDowell County gets talked about like a warning label. Coal collapsed, jobs left, people followed. The expectation is hardship, isolation, and headlines that never sound hopeful. Nobody casually says, "I'm thinking of moving there." They whisper it, if at all. Here's what actually matters. Median home price, around $40,000 to $50,000. Some lower. Median rent, often $500 to $600. Not theoretical, real listings. Cost of living, roughly 30 to 35% below the national average. Property taxes, among the lowest in the country. Population trend, severe decline. And that's the opportunity. Turns out when a town empties faster than the housing stock, prices don't negotiate, they surrender. This is where Social Security stops feeling small. Housing becomes background noise, bills become manageable, stress loses leverage. The weird part? People confuse poor county with expensive life. Those aren't the same thing. McDowell didn't get pricier, it got quieter. And quiet places don't charge you for ambition you no longer need. Picture mornings wrapped in fog, hills instead of sirens, a slow pace that doesn't apologize. You know your neighbors. You're not rich, but you're okay. And okay feels rare now. "I don't have much here," one local wrote, "but I also don't owe much, and that counts." Like this if the idea of owning your time sounds better than impressing strangers. Subscribe, because knowing where money still works is a survival skill, not a personality trait.